All right, so digging back in to what we started yesterday, your paper should be dry. If you weren't here yesterday and you make one of these, you have to let it dry overnight before you can work on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Sharpie marker, but if you're working on a design that maybe is new to you, you're within your rights to start with pencil and then move on to Sharpie later. Remember that the preferred Google search is Zentangle pattern, or you can search Zentangle design or Zentangle step-by-step. For even better results, you could add in your preferred learning modality. So if you prefer learning from a video, type in Zentangle video. If you prefer learning from like pictures, Zentangle step-by-step. Before we can apply any patterns, what we need to do is carefully outline the new shapes. So what we have here is, in art terms, it's called an edge. So where the color meets the white paper is an edge. Not all edges are outlined, but in this instance, we are going to put a line right on the edge, which creates an outline. You want to work slow and steady. I think that, for this kind of work, especially with the way these squiggles present, we need to use that smaller part of our arm. Okay, if it was a bigger line, we'd use the elbow or the shoulder. But these, I would take it about 1 inch at a time. I might even ghost it before I trace over it. Especially if I'm like turning my page to try and get a better angle of attack. Try to stop your line before you run out of space. I could have gone a little further, but then I would have gotten cramped here where my hand can no longer draw. Again, that's something that you kind of work on your whole life as an artist. There's never a point where you're like, okay, I'm set. So now that I've outlined this shape, I'm going to skip ahead. You guys in the classroom, what I would recommend is do all your outline and then move into your pattern work. But for the sake of my class period 2 7th grade, I'm going to start to develop a Zentangle. So you do have some authorship here. So if you find a Zentangle pattern and it is contained within like a square type shape, you have to figure out, like, do I imagine a square or do I stretch it? The reason we practice is so we can evaluate whether or not your adjustment was strong or not strong. But I'm going to use a pattern that I know pretty well. Anybody who is detecting my use of contour line, anybody who's saying, hey, that looks just like what we did in our last project, nicely done, good spot. And anybody who is like able to kind of tune out that little voice that says, hey, hurry up while you work on this, you're going to be in good shape. This project can be really intimidating if you let it be, but if you just kind of work on one section at a time, it is really pleasant. It has kind of like a focusing effect. final step of this. So there is a small fill for this. Again, remember, if you're filling anything in, put this guy back on ice, the fine tip marker, and avail yourself of one of these. Well, this is the ultra fine tip, so this would be the fine tip. Excuse me. When I do my fill, again, we talked about this yesterday, I try to fill the same way I mow the lawn, one strip at a time. One reason is I want to keep my paper from bleeding through, but the other reason, I mean, it's just like the tires on your bike. At a certain point, this is gonna wear out. So if you're like scrubbing and going over places that already have, you know, the maximum amount of black ink, you're really just, you know, like not making efficient use of a tool. And I get it; these are, these are school district 70s markers. But think back to what we talked about yesterday with the dry erase, or not, excuse me, the drying rack. And when we use materials well, it opens up opportunities for new materials. And I mean, you guys don't know the 8th graders from the 1920 school year, but they were one of the groups that used materials well, and they never got to use that drying rack, but we still like them anyway, and that's kind of a selfless act on their part. All right. So it is kind of tricky when you get to the top. You got to kind of like fake it, like there's more going on. There we go. But that's one pattern. So remember, as far as like assessment goes, there won't be any critique. But what I'm looking at is I'm taking this out of 10 points, and for full 10 points, we want all shapes outlined and 3 Zentangle patterns minimum. Anybody who does more, I've never seen someone do more and not get better. So, you know, just because you've hit that minimum, you know, don't like stop. If it's 2 Zentangle patterns, we'll go 9 points. If it's 1 Zentangle pattern, we'll go 8 points. But again, you know, not hard, fast rules. If you got something going on or a special circumstance, let me know and we'll talk about it. But hopefully you guys can enjoy working on this. We are going to work on these today, and we are also going to work on these tomorrow. So pace yourself for 2 days of work. And we will say these will be due at the end of class Friday, and that is kind of our way of wrapping up the week, right? No homework going into the weekend. Unless there is someone who'd like to work on this at home. Again, I've never met a student who likes to do extra artwork who didn't get better. So once you hit that minimum, definitely consider. So thanks for taking the time to look. Thanks for taking the time to listen. And a special shout out to my class period 2 group who was the live studio audience for this recording. I could not have done it without you guys. So give yourselves a round of applause. All right, thanks again, guys. That's my thumbs up, and we'll see you tomorrow.